anything like me, I'm enjoying this beautiful sunny day. I'm so excited that we're finally getting some spring. We need some much needed sun, especially in light of all of this stay home and stay safe, and we're all secluded. We could use some sun. And actually, I don't know if you know this, but sun is very healing and very, very good for getting rid of all of these viruses, especially the COVID-19 virus. So try to get as much sun as you can. And today, though, I just wanted to let you know that we're still here for you. I know this has been, going on 2 months of this stay-home order, and people are just kind of getting antsy to get out and really just weary, growing really weary. And if you're anything like me, last week was just an especially difficult week. And I don't know why. It's just a culmination of just being home for so long and still homeschooling and still working and, trying to hold down the fort and wearing so many hats. I know so many of you are doing the same thing, and it gets very challenging. And during these challenging times, we have to pull our strength from every source that we can. And we want to be that source for you also. We want to help you. We want to help navigate these uncharted waters. This is such an unprecedented time for so many, and for this global pandemic across the world, it's unprecedented. And here in Michigan, we're doing our very best to try to keep everybody safe, everybody healthy, and everybody fiscally healthy as well. So, we've brought to you lots of different attorneys from week to week, answering any questions that you have. And on our Tuesday show, I really just want to give you as much information and just some guidance and wisdom as possible. And I know we first started with all the co-parenting information. And for those of you who are more interested in that, I'm going to be offering a workshop down the road. So please send me some comments, send me some emails. Let me know if this is something of interest to you, because I do want to provide more value. I do want to provide more information, not only from a professional standpoint, but also from a real practical one. I've walked the walk. I know where you guys are. I know how hard it can be, not just now, co-parenting now amidst this pandemic, but in general. And the challenge to change really arose from being the change, being the person you want that other person to be. So, it's something that's constant, it's ongoing, and we can never stop learning. We can never stop growing, because that's what life is all about. And now today, with our Challenge to Change series, I'm so happy to be bringing to you a woman who has endured so much. She has overcome so many challenges in her life. And, I know we all have our own crosses to bear. I know we all go through turmoil from time to time. And it's in our turmoil, it's in our, really difficult time and difficult phases in our lives that we grow and that we get better. And I'm just so happy to be bringing to you a woman who has not only gone through such difficult times in her life, but she has thrived. She has given back. She has made a difference in so many lives. And that woman is Risa Kirschner. So I'm so happy that she's here with me today. She's a mom, she's an author, she's an attorney. She has so much to offer. And so please, without further ado, I'm going to bring you Risa. Hi, Risa. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Of course. It's so good to see you here and to be with us. Thanks for your time. Now, Risa, I want to share with our viewers, you've just done so much in your life, in a very young life, let me add. And you've overcome so much. And this time for so many people is about, pulling up from within and just finding that inner strength. And you did that. I mean, you've done that. You were such a young woman who did that. Can you just talk to the viewers a little bit about just what you've overcome and where you've been? And now look at you today. It's just an amazing story.
Thank you. So almost 17 years ago, when I was 29, I was married. And I had a 2-year-old. My daughter at the time was 2, and I was pregnant with my second child. And I suffered they discovered that I had a heart tumor. And I spent 2 months in the hospital the University of Michigan, and I lost my second child, my second daughter. But the doctors had told me that had I not been pregnant, I probably wouldn't be here today. So the pregnancy saved my life, and I almost lost my own life.
So Risa, taking you back, so you were 29 years old.
Yeah.
You were young, and you were pregnant with your second child. How far along in your pregnancy were you?
I was about 23 and a half weeks.
And how was it discovered?
So I actually was having a really rough pregnancy. And I was kind of back and forth to the hospital, getting hydrated and all the things that come along with being pregnant. And I didn't feel good because of the pregnancy. And because I was far along, I was over 20 weeks, miraculously, the hospital decided to keep me for the night. And it was there that I started having difficulties. And because I was at the hospital, they were able to send me by helicopter, by survival flight to the University of Michigan.
Wow.
So like I said, I was fortunate. I had been in the hospital and I was able to get the help I needed as soon as I needed it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you were at the University of Michigan Hospital, and you didn't, I remember you telling me that, you woke up almost 2 months later and you didn't realize 2 months had gone by.
Right. I went into the hospital. I said it was a beautiful fall day in November. It was one of those days where it was like still warm enough where I had like a sweatshirt and sweatpants on, no jacket. And
I love Michigan fall weather.
Michigan fall weather, right? And then my next memory is waking up and there was snow. I looked out the window in my room in Ann Arbor, and there was snow on the window. And about 5 weeks had passed, and it was like the middle of winter, and I had no recollection of the time from one to the other, which is a blessing in many respects. But a lot of time had passed. A lot had happened in those weeks.
It's very similar, and not to divert, but it's very similar to what people are going through in the hospitals with COVID-19. I've heard several similar stories where they are, when they're intubated, they're put out, and then they lost, that many weeks of their lives. It's just not, they can't recollect it.
Yeah, you lose time. It's very strange. Yeah.
So, and you had a young, toddler at home, 2-year-old, right?
A 2-year-old. I did.
What's her name?
Allison, but Allie. So,
and Allie was home. And, I'm sure as a young little girl, she probably was really confused.
I can say today, first of all, she has no memory of the event, which is a blessing. But, I am very grateful. I had a wonderful family. I do have a wonderful family and wonderful support system. And Allie right away was taken in by a friend and lived with them. And she knew she was loved. She knew she was supported. I think at the time she probably thought it was like, cool, I'm having a sleepover with my, it was fun for her.
Yeah.
And so she spent a couple weeks with them. And as soon as I started to stabilize, my family started to rotate. Everybody kind of took turns, and it was really a group effort, kind of helping her get through it. And I'm very grateful for that. Like I said, she has no memory of the event, but she knows she was loved. She knows she was supported. She knows, that she was never by herself.
But at the time you were married.
At the time I was married to my ex-husband, correct.
Yeah.
And so once I stabilized, everybody kind of rotated and took turns coming home from the hospital, watching her, switching and rotating and
helping her get through.
Yeah, good. So from there, then you were in the hospital at U of M, and tell us a little bit about your experience there.
So they were fantastic. In fact, in my dedication to my book, which I know we'll talk about, they're a part of my dedication. I say that Michigan did everything humanly possible to save my life, and they did. And they were fantastic to me. They were fantastic to my family. They were fantastic to my daughter, which is one of the reasons I ended up going back and volunteering there. I said that, medically speaking, they did everything they could to save my life. And as far as, the way that we were treated was with compassion and love. And I will be indebted to them for the rest of my life.
Well, that's amazing. That's great. And I'm so happy that they took such good care of you, because now you're here with us, and you just did an amazing thing. And we're going to get into your book. And so Before we talk about your book, though, I want to talk about what happened after you got out of the hospital. I mean, that in and of itself, you have such a gift of life now presented to you, and you probably saw life in such a different way.
It was, when I talk about my story, I always say that when I went to leave the hospital, which when I finally recovered from everything, it was probably 6 months from start to finish. And I said to the doctor, I said, what do I do now? And he's like, well, you go home and live your life. And I said, okay. So, I expected, I thought, I wanted my life to go back to normal, to the way I thought it was going to be. And life doesn't go back to normal in the way that you used to know it. It just, after you survive something like that, for me, for my family, and it was a new normal. And I never took anything for granted to begin with, but you certainly see life in a very different way. And, raising my daughter, being able to come home to my daughter, not taking anything for granted, being able to go out and live my life and do the things that we normally, even now we can't do, but like grocery shopping and getting in our cars and going places, for me, that was such a big deal because I didn't think I was going to be able to do that again. Mm-hmm. And you look at life differently. There's no way to go back to the way it was before.
Right.
And, I guess I looked and I said, how can I make a difference? How can I, I was given a second chance. I wanted to make sure I made the most of that, that I made the most of that second chance, either by giving back or doing something to help other people. That was important.
It took you a while though, because, you got home and you didn't. When did you decide and when did you start putting your actions into place that you wanted to give back?
Well, so it took a while. The book, the manuscript for the book was written right after I came home, but it took like 16 years to come to fruition. And it took me a while.
What do you mean by that?
I wrote the story that turned into the book right when I came home from the hospital. And like I said, life gets in the way. I had a 2-year-old, I was recuperating, and it got shelved until many, many years later, till last year. And at first, I didn't want to talk about being sick. I wanted to go out and live my life and not talk about it. And then, it was more about giving back and how I could give back. I thought the only way, one of the best ways I could give back would be for me to talk about it and to share my experience and to help others and other families who might be going through the same thing. And so, once I physically recuperated a little bit more and emotionally recuperated, that's when I started to volunteer and I started to give back and I started to try and get my life back together. I wanted to give back. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to help people who would find themselves in a situation like me, whether they were a person who got sick, a family member, a loved one, a child. My experience was unique. And if I could help by sharing that, I wanted to do that.
Now, Risa, what in you drove you to want to help somebody else, to help people? And I know, we all go through challenges and many do want to take that challenge and use it for the greater good. What was in you that drove you to that?
I think I was so grateful that, when I was sick, she was 2. And I always say that, if something had happened to me, she would have remembered me. And I only wanted one thing. I wanted to be able to be there to see her grow up. I wanted to be able to, and I was given that opportunity. I was one of the fortunate ones. And I think that I wanted, how do you repay that? How do you can't monetize, how do you repay someone? Or how do you show your gratefulness, your joy for being given your life and being so grateful? And I guess when I looked at it, as hard as it was for me to share the story, I knew that it would help so many people. And I'm very grateful because it has. And I've heard from a lot of people, either through my book or through me sharing my actual personal story of my health crisis, that it's helped a lot of people. It's helped a lot of families. It's, I've actually had people come up to me and say it gave them hope, that they had a loved one who was really ill and they didn't believe and they knew that I had been so sick and I made it. And so it gave them hope. And if that helps somebody, then it's worth it. Then that was what drove me. That was what helped me, is, being there for my daughter and being grateful for being able to be there for her, but also being able to give other people that hope, share those stories. And like I said, even if I was able to do that for one person, it was worth it.
That's wonderful. And, and it's so poignant to our time now. I mean, hope is everything, especially with so many unknowns out there. Not only with regard to our health as a nation, our health as a community, our fiscal health, our emotional health. There's, people forget about that, the mental health of people. It's that hope that continues to drive us.
It's a fight. There are a lot of moments, my own moments that were very hard. I had lost a child, and I was told at 29 I couldn't have any more children. And that's kind of like that was a hard door to close in my life.
Mm-hmm. So you're mourning the unborn child that you had. Right. You're mourning that, and you're mourning the fact that you can't have any more kids. Thankfully you have a beautiful, healthy baby in home, but you're mourning, 2 months of your life. And then you also, I'd like you to talk a little bit about your marriage, if that's okay with you. You may have been mourning the death of a marriage. So can you talk to our viewers, because so many of our viewers, are parents and have some difficult relationships. How did you realize that this might not be for you, the father of your child?
Right. So I was not in a good relationship, in a good marriage. And it took me a couple years, even after I knew this kind of before I got sick, but obviously being sick and the things that we went through together kind of exacerbated things. And it took me still a couple years after I came out of the hospital before I actually filed for divorce, because I needed to be able to have the strength to do it. Again, physically, emotionally, mentally. And my daughter was 5 when I filed for divorce. And I think the biggest motivator, one of the biggest motivators, was I looked at her and I looked at the relationship I was in. And I guess I was afraid that if one day she found herself in a relationship with anybody, somebody, a partner, whoever, and that person treated her the way that I was being treated, and she thought that was okay, that she didn't flinch because she thought that was normal, that's how people are treated, then I would have failed as a mom. I didn't want her to think that that's how people are treated, that that's how relationships are supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And
you broke the cycle.
I said, if I can do one thing for her, it's I can show her that not how women are treated, and show her that as a woman, we can do this. Like we can do this. We're going to be okay. And so, it was a couple of months before her 5th birthday, I got up and I filed and never looked back.
That's amazing. We all have to realize our value and our worth. And sometimes it takes people longer than others. And thankfully you did it when your daughter was so young. So she understood the value of self-respect, and now she's seeing it. It's one thing to talk about it. I'm a mom and I try to teach my children every day, but you can't just tell them, you have to show them. And it's very important. The old saying, you get out of life what you think you deserve. So I'm so happy that you believed that you deserved more. And
it was not easy. It was not easy to, listen, it's not easy to pick up and have the unknown ahead of you. But like I said, I knew that long-term it would be the best thing for us and for her.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So when you pulled yourself up and you had the strength and courage to move forward, then what happened? You have a 5-year-old at home.
I have a 5-year-old at home. So my ex-husband, a couple weeks after I filed for divorce, got in a car and left and moved across the country. And has been there. She'll be 19 now in a few weeks, and he's been there ever since. He's moved around a couple times, but he's been out west. And I was left to sell my house by myself, which was right before the housing market, went into, crashed. And so I put the house up on the market and I packed up my house. I sold my house. I was very fortunate. I have a wonderful family. I have parents and a sister who live in the area. And I took my daughter and moved in with my parents. And I kind of got myself together and I bought a new house on my own and fixed up a house. And 6 months later, I moved my daughter and I into a home. And that was it. We just kind of went on with our life.
Yeah, you do whatever it takes, right?
We did. Yeah, I mean, I wanted her to. It was pretty. It was pretty fun. It was pretty empowering to be able to buy a house and move her into a house and have a home that was ours.
Were you working as an attorney at that time?
So I wasn't. So I'm an attorney. I'm a commercial real estate broker. I'm also a Hebrew tutor and teacher. So
Wear many hats.
Many hats. So I've kind of done a little bit of a combination of everything. I had been working and then I got sick and kind of sidelined everything, and obviously got divorced, became a single parent. And so I've kind of been doing a little bit of everything through the past, sometimes more of one over the other in the past, like 17 years, but a little bit of everything.
So I, not to make light of it or to poke fun, but I know a lot of parents that share custody and would be thrilled if their ex-spouse moved across country. So
yeah, I would say that in many respects, I had it a lot better than a lot of people I know who are divorced, because I don't have
it's tough to co-parent.
It's very tough.
Difficult ex.
I've watched my friends go through it. It's very difficult. And like I said, we didn't have the back and forth every weekend. We didn't have the shared holiday. We just didn't. She was with me. And like I said, in many respects, it made it a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, and for those, you parents out there that, wish that, but just if you need help with anything, just please call me. I'm happy to give you practical tips and advice on co-parenting. I mean, I do it every day. So, but as we move forward, as you got your new house and your new life, and you still have your health, and everything was okay at that point. You didn't have any residual effects or any problems.
Yeah, no, I've been very grateful. I mean, aside from going to the doctor once a year, I've been, like I said, I've been very grateful. I've had no residual effects. I've been able to travel and live my life without restrictions, and it's pretty amazing from where I came from. So.
Well, and it has a little bit of a happy ending. You got remarried.
I did. I've been remarried 5 years now. We've been together longer, but we've been married 5 years.
That's fantastic. So it gives a lot of people, there's hope in that too for people.
So, there's a time for everything. Everything takes time, and we got there.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. And your daughter's healthy and happy.
Healthy and happy. She's going to be 19 in a few weeks and just finished her first semester at Michigan State, and a little disappointed that she didn't get to finish out her first year at school, but obviously everybody's living it. So she's amazing. And throughout her life, despite the challenges, and she's been amazing and has done really well. And, if people are worried about their kids, I always say, she knew if I was okay, she was okay. And that was really important, that she knew that I was okay, she was okay. And she's amazing.
I think that's a key thing for a lot of parents to know, that children pick up on the vibe and the energy from their parents. And so even in a split home, or, a parent who's ill, if they sense that the parent is okay with whatever it is, with getting a new house, with losing a house, losing a job, with losing a spouse or another parent, as long as the children feel that the parent is okay with it, then they will be. I truly believe that. And that's why it's so important to not show the fighting and the acrimony. And it's just so important to feel that. And again, it stems from the valuing of yourself and your life. And you had a drive to write a book, and you said you started with the manuscript earlier, many years earlier.
Right.
What all of a sudden changed in you that said, okay, aha, now is the time?
So the book was written, it's a story based on Allie's visits to me in the hospital. And it's a story that I wish that someone could have read to Allie before she came to visit me. It's about a little girl visiting her mom in the hospital. And so I wrote it based on her real visits to me, and in the hopes that it would always become something. And then I came out of the hospital and I had to go through cardiac rehab, and then I got divorced, and then I was raising Allie. And I guess the hope was it would always come to fruition. And it just so happens that I always say timing in life is everything. And right before her senior year of high school, I have a friend who wrote a book, and she put me in touch with her publisher. And I said, hey, I've got this idea for a book that's based on this story. This is what happened. And I took out the story and I sent it to them, and they loved it. And here we are. It became the book.
And how long did it take you?
The book was, I mean, the story was written 17 years ago, but the actual final book was actually published last March. So it was written in it was written in 4. It was published in like 19. So it took a few years to finally get it to the.
And the name of the book is Feel Better Mommy.
Feel Better Mommy. Yeah.
And why did you feel the need to write it from the child's perspective?
So the book is about, it's an adventure story. You know, Allie had never, she was 2, had never been to a hospital before. And, I guess at this point in my life, there's not any child I know who has not been to a hospital for a reason, whether it's to visit a sick relative, to visit somebody who's having a baby. And it can be a really scary experience. And Allie kind of found it to be the opposite. Like, she saw it as a little adventure. Like, she liked playing on my bed, the bed that moved up and down. And she liked, pushing her dolly in the wheelchair, and, all the things that come with being at a hospital, she found really interesting. And the message of the book, there's 2 messages of the book, which are hospitals are safe places, that they help people, whether people are sick or whether people are having a baby. And that at the end of the day, my love for her didn't change. Just because I wasn't home with her every day didn't mean I didn't love her the same. My geography changed, but my love for her didn't change. And like I said, I wish it was that kind of book that someone could have read to her. And I thought, if someone else has a child in a situation like this, that maybe they could read, take a little bit of the fear out, then it would be worth it to help other people. Not knowing that we find ourselves in a global pandemic, these years later. But that was the motivation behind the book, was to really, again, to kind of help other families, other children kind of cope with visiting a hospital for the first time.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I like the fact that you did it from your daughter's perspective. And I think the book helped so many people, not just through any particular illness or it could be really any family member,
Right. That was the idea. Right.
Yeah. And I know you indicated that you did it from the perspective of a nanny bringing your daughter.
Well, my mom, the grandmother, the Nana.
The Nana, yeah.
Because, I said it, every family situation and dynamic are different. 2 parents, 1 parent, grandparents. And so it was purposely done that the Nana took her to the hospital. And the book doesn't talk about any specific illness purposely, because I didn't want it to be illness specific. And the book also doesn't talk about whether or not the mom goes home at the end, because unfortunately we know that not all people go home from the hospital. So it was kind of done in such a way where there's no, I didn't want there to be death in the book. That wasn't the point of the book. The point of the book was to help kids kind of adjust to the unknown of what they see when they go to the hospital, and to know that their loved one, their mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, no matter where they are, they love them. They love them just the same. They don't have to be in their normal, house to love them, just because, they can be in the hospital and love them just the same.
Well, I have a couple questions from a viewer. So the first one is, did you battle any kind of depression during any of this? Or how did you get through this emotionally? What advice can you give on getting through something traumatic that you suffered?
So those are really good questions. So I didn't really battle depression so much. Being in a hospital for a very long time like that causes you to have some other kind of psychological issues. You start to, you start to lose time, lose reality. And I battled that a little bit.
I think people are having that now. I think people, have talked about, it feels like Groundhog's Day, every day is the same over and over and over. And please express, how did you cope with that? How did you get over that?
I had a lot of support from family and friends. And I think that in my situation, besides that, I had the loss of a child and I had been in the hospital, but I think the fact that I had lived, and I was so grateful for the fact that I had lived, kind of, I don't want to say overshadowed, that's not a really good word to use, but made it easier for me to push forward, because I didn't allow myself to wallow too much in the woe is me. because I couldn't say woe is me. How can you say woe is me when you're like, you could have died, but you didn't?
Right.
So I didn't allow myself too much of the woe is me. I did. I had the moments. There were plenty, I was at the age where all of my friends were having children. They were having their seconds, they were having their thirds. It was very hard. It wasn't like it was not an issue. But like I said, I didn't allow myself too many woe is me moments because I was so grateful to be alive, to be with my daughter. And I had a lot of support. Like I said, friends, yeah.
But I think you make a really great point, though, and I think it's so poignant for people to understand now that yes, it's okay to give yourself that space to have a day or more of just kind of wallowing. A little self-pity is okay, but the minute you focus on that, your brain and your mind and your thoughts go to where you focus, and your mind can't be focused on two different things at once. So if you're grateful, if you have gratitude, you can't really have too much self-pity. So, and I think your motivation of giving back is another very poignant aspect of people's healing and moving forward, because the minute you turn your challenge, your adversity into good for other people, that's what life is all about. And so it's so refreshing to hear that you did all that and you overcame so much and you were grateful and you move forward.
I'm still having those moments. We're all in our houses and there are those moments where you're like, oh my, I can't do this. Like, I can't, this is horrible. And we're missing this. And we were supposed to go on this trip. But then again, I look and I'm like, you know what? I'm very grateful. I have a home. I'm healthy. Like, you got to kind of just give yourself the moment and then you kind of regroup. And that's what we're all doing right now is we're trying to just be very grateful and move forward and get through this.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow.
Well, and I have another question. It goes more for your daughter.
Okay.
Did your daughter have to have therapy, or does she suffer from any anxiety relative to your illness or her father leaving her?
So I had Allie go right away when I filed for divorce. I had Allie go and talk to somebody. This was more she was young at the time, not because she necessarily asked for it, but because I wanted her to always have a safe place to discuss things. Like, she wanted a place to say, like, I hate my mommy and daddy. Like, I wanted her to have that safe place. I didn't want her to just like worry that she couldn't say those things to me. And so she did. She had somebody she could talk to all the way through pretty much up until high school. And at first, because she was little, it was more on a regular basis. And then it was more when she needed it. It was more like, Mom, I'm having a moment. Okay. And the deal was, I didn't have to know what she talked about unless it had to do with her life. And like, the doctor said, unless I feel it's something dangerous, this is all between us. And I said, that's fine. I wanted her to have that safe place. Anxiety is a little different story. Little bit anxious, but that's not so much. That's just who she is. Her leaving, she wasn't afraid of people leaving all the time because her father left. Anxiety is kind of a family thing. So I deal with it. She deal, but I did. I made sure she had the help that she needed and wanted, whenever she needed it, it was there for her. I thought that was important.
I think it's important to, to give children tools to help them through these phases, because it's going to happen when they're young, when they're older, when they're an adult. All through our lives, we have different things. And I know a lot of children resist getting help or resist going to therapy because they're afraid of it for whatever reason. So it's nice to hear that she didn't. Or did you just...
Someone said it would be like a gift you're giving her. And I truly believe that was the case.
Yeah.
I'm a little resistant about it, but I'm like, someone said, well, it'll be a gift you're giving her. And you know what? It worked out. Like I said, she knew she had a safe place when she needed it. And I thought that was a really good thing.
That is great. And how do you think this has shaped your daughter's view on life? All of her, this is another question. So, this entire experience, how do you think it shaped her life and into who that she is today as a young woman?
She's pretty remarkable. Like, she's outgoing, she's loving, she's warm, she's kind, she's amazing with people.
What does she think about the book?
She she loves the book. She loves the book.
Does she know it was written for her?
Changed her name in the book. So she wants to know why I changed her name in the book. And it was more to give her a little bit of anonymity more than anything. But she, like I said, I'm very grateful that she was always surrounded by family and friends. I say it takes a village. It took a village. Like I had a lot of, help, and she always knew she was surrounded and loved, which, her father leaving didn't leave this huge hole. I mean, I hate to say it like that. Didn't leave this huge hole in her life. My husband now has been in her life longer than her birth father, my ex-husband. And so she's always been around a dad and my parents and my sister, all kinds of family. And I was also very, very careful. Like I tried never to badmouth my ex-husband. I always say that I loved her more than any feeling I had towards him. And that I didn't hate, I said, I don't want to say I hated him because hate would imply emotion. And I don't want to, emotion takes energy. And I didn't want to give him any energy. And so I figured that as she got older, she would understand the kind of person he was or he is on her own. And she did. I didn't need to tell her the kind of person he was. She came to the realization on her own. And I think that was really important.
I have been an attorney for a long time, and I've been doing family law and high conflict divorces for many years. And I stress the importance of what you just said to my clients on a regular basis. In fact, that was the impetus for my Challenge2Change series. And for many other attorneys out there, they know that I'm extremely responsible when it comes to the children and making sure we are doing everything in the children's best interest. And I coach my clients, and I have that client control to tell them, look, exactly what you said. It is far worse for the child to show any kind of hatred or animosity or acrimony toward their parent, whether it's the dad or the mom, because it hurts them so deeply for a very, very long time and well beyond the months of that divorce pending. And what you said is so true. And I can't stress that enough. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit further, because our viewers have to know, and I know that they're watching this show because they want to be that better parent. They want to be the one that their child looks to say, you know what, my mom or my dad, they love me, and I know that. And it has nothing to do with the other parent. It's being the best you can be for your child. And if that means to be kind and respectful of the other parent, well, darn it, you do it, because it takes a stronger person, that inner strength, that inner confidence to know you're doing it for your child, and you'll make as many sacrifices as you can for that child.
It's everybody. It's not easy. I don't want to make it sound like it's like.
I know. I live it every day. I know it's not easy. When you've been wronged, or if you feel that person wasn't good to you or was abusive to you or whatever it was, you're doing it for your child. It's easier to be the bad. It's easier to be the witch, right? It's easier to be the jerk. It takes a strong person to be kind in the face of all of that.
I guess if I could tell anybody, like I said, Allie will be 19 in a few weeks. And if you look at the kind of person she is, I hope it's a reflection of everything, a culmination of everything and the choices I made. I hope. Like I said, it was not easy. There were really tough moments. There are still tough moments, and I'm sure there will be as we go on. But, she's a remarkable young woman. I consider well-adjusted. And I hope that that's a little bit of a reflection on the choices I made, as hard as they were sometimes to swallow the words and to the emotion. But I hope that I did. Like I said, I loved her more than any feelings I had towards him.
That's a great mantra. You love your child more than anything else. That's a great mantra. So let's talk a little bit about where people can find the book, and what are you doing now? And do you have plans to write another one?
So you can find the book on Amazon, and I also have the website. It's the book's Feel Better Mommy, so it's www.feelbettermommy.com. And we just donated about 250 books to Beaumont and to Providence, and my husband and I kind of looked at each other and we said, the message of the book was written for a young child visiting the hospital. But we're thinking now, and we're like, all these people, no family members are allowed to go to the hospital in the midst of the COVID. And so we thought about all those children who might have a parent or a loved one in the hospital that they can't see. They only have their imagination to imagine what is going on in that hospital.
And it's scary for them.
It's scary. And they can't ask the questions that my daughter asked me. My daughter said, "Mommy, do you miss home? Do you still love me?" And so the book, in the midst of everything, I feel has almost become even more poignant, because now maybe you can give it to a child and the child can read and have a little bit of an insight as to what goes on and what a hospital looks like. And the fact that they know that their loved one loves them, even though they're there, they can't talk to them, they can't see them, they can't have any contact with them, but that their loved one still loves them. And so I think the message is just as important, even more now with what's going on in the country, in the world, I should say. So.
Absolutely. Why did you choose Beaumont and Providence? Why those two hospitals?
My husband is a physician and he's on staff at both those hospitals. So we reached out to them and they were amazing, and we were able to, but it was hard. It's not easy to, under these circumstances with stay at home, we didn't know how we were going to get the books out. And so luckily Channel 7 was able to help me and put me in touch with Beaumont, and then Providence, and my husband works where he works. They were able to take some books. So with a lot of help from a lot of people, we were able to make sure that the books got out there, even in the midst of me being stuck at home, basically. So.
And they were able to take them even with the fear of the virus?
So we actually, the Beaumont books were dropped off at the Beaumont, like their headquarters, like on Northwestern. So we didn't have to go to the hospital. And same thing for Providence. And we were able to do it in such a way where there was no risk to anybody.
That's great.
Like I said, we had a lot of help doing it, and I appreciate them, because we didn't know how we were going to get the books out. And I'm grateful that we were able to do it.
And if for those of you who want the book, please go to her website, feelbettermommy.com, and you can purchase the book. Do you have an e-version?
Yep.
Or Amazon. Do you have an e-version?
No, but I don't have an e-version, but I do. There is a coloring book version. So for those kids who might not even be a young reader, it's the same book, but it's only black and white. So it's a coloring book.
Oh, that's great. That's amazing. Yeah. Do you think you'll be writing any other books?
Not right now. We'll see. I don't know what's to come. I don't know. We'll see.
And so do you have any other plans for this book? So you've given several hundred away.
We have.
And you're trying to sell them. And what else do you?
My hope is that I spent 10 years volunteering in Ann Arbor at the hospital as a board member at the Cardiovascular Center, and working as kind of a patient and family advisor with patients and families. And my hope, I guess, as we move forward, once people are allowed back in hospitals again, and is to continue to tell my story, to take the book and to travel, maybe even to talk to other organizations, to talk to doctors or nurses or healthcare providers, and talk to them about my illness, talk to them about how my family was treated, how it made such an impact on my illness, my recovery, with regard to how me and my family were treated, and how the book came to be. So I guess, like I said, that's my hope as time goes on. And once everybody's allowed back into, medical facilities and hospitals.
That's great. Risa, I have another question.
Okay.
So the question is, for this viewer, my past comes up into her present. How has she closed that chapter so it doesn't sneak into your life and your relationship with your husband today?
Time.
It's a good question.
Good question. Time.
Time.
My illness was a long time ago. I don't think about it every day like I did. First it was every day, all day, and then time healed. And my husband and I had been together a long time. We'd been together 12 years. Yeah. We got married until we were together 7 years. We didn't combine houses. We stayed in our own separate houses with our own children.
Does your husband have children of his own?
He does. I have 3 stepsons who are older than Allie. So 24, 22, almost 20.
Was that a challenge when you merged families?
You know what? We did it. So we actually kept our own separate households until the kids were older. So by the time we actually got married and merged households, Allie had started high school. So the kids a couple of them were in high school. 3 of them were in high school, and then we had 1 in college already. So the kids were a lot older by the time we did that, which I think helped a lot of,
Yeah. Blended families have their own unique challenges.
a lot of change. I had moved Allie out of the house that she was born in, and I moved her to my parents, and I moved her to another house. And then just before high school, we got married and we moved again. So, I've tried to do it as smart as I could. Still a lot of change, a lot of growing pains, but I think we've been successful. I think we've done okay, but it's time, and knowing those moments will creep in, but the good moments are better than the not so good moments now.
I think it's also a little bit of introspection and work on yourself, so you don't repeat those same patterns, and not that you were able to, you had no control over the pattern that was created in your life, your illness, and the father of your child, but I should say the biological father of your child, because doesn't your daughter refer to?
She does. She refers to my ex-husband as her birth father.
Yeah. So, it's, I think for all of our viewers, it's important to know that you can change. People say, oh, you're stuck with your personality, you're this or that. No, you can change, but it takes a daily mindful effort.
And I've been trying to raise a really strong, confident daughter. That was really important to me, is to put a strong, confident daughter out into the world, to know that she could be anything, do anything, that not to take any crap from anybody. I mean, I don't know how else to say it, but that was really important to me, is to put somebody strong out into the world.
That's amazing. I think that's great. And I think also it's, your actions, are what, like we were saying before, the children see and understand. It's not necessarily your words. And so your actions speak volumes.
I try.
Yeah. No, I know that. And the book is yet another example and another reflection of your values. And I think it's fantastic. So we have another question. Will you be somewhere reading your book? I would love to take my son to a reading. I guess it would be after COVID, right?
Yeah. So I was scheduled to be at a couple of places this summer, and right now everything's on hold. So I was supposed to be at an art fair, and right now everything is on hold. On my website, if you go to my website, we do have a page that says, please see Risa at, or Risa will be appearing at. So I keep telling people just to keep checking back, because right now, unfortunately for the summer, I don't know how much is going to go because of COVID, but I will keep updating as things come about. We do put on the website.
You could do a virtual reading.
Oh, I could, I know with everything virtual now. Yeah, I could.
I'm giving you an idea. I think you should do a virtual reading.
But yeah, that's where people can find out where I'm going to be or what I'm going to be doing.
So, and tell us a little bit about the illustrations. So I know you didn't draw them, but were you the one behind the ideas for them?
Yeah. So I knew, as a children's book, I knew that it wasn't going to be like real looking people, but I also didn't want it to be very cartoony either, because it's still a very serious subject. Like, you're dealing with hospital and, so I had an envision in my head of how I wanted the people to look. And actually the little girl in the book looks like my daughter did at that age. They had a picture of her with her little glasses and her pigtails. And so we never meet, I never met the author. So the publishing company, I tell them.
You never met the
illustrator. Thank you.
Illustrator. Yeah, you're the author.
So I tell them my vision for it, and then they send me 3 or 4 different illustrators that they think would be suitable. And I look at their work, and then I pick one. And then my illustrator actually lives in Europe, so it's all done online. So she gets the manuscript, and then she sends me pictures, and then we make corrections and suggestions, and it just goes back and forth until we have a final product.
Well, I think it's great for any aspiring author out there watching. And if anybody has downtime or time on their hands now during this, stay home order, get a book going, start your manuscript, write a book, and you can do it as you did. So, well, I think that's fantastic. And I know you had talked before about when you and I were talking a little bit earlier off camera, and you had mentioned that, you were just focusing on the new normal, your new normal for your life, the new normal for your daughter's life, really your entire family's new normal. And I know now people are so fearful because we don't know what our new normal will be yet. We're living day to day. We're in these, stay home orders in our quarantined areas. Social distancing is really our new normal. How can you help someone to lessen their anxiety about dealing with this new normal?
I guess once I stopped trying to make my new normal my old normal, it was okay. After I came home from the hospital and I wanted to go back, I wanted the life back that I had before. And trying to make it that made it harder. It was never going to be that. And once I allowed myself to know that, I was able to move forward. And I think that as I sit home and all of us sit home, I'm scared. I'm scared about what's to come and what our life, and I think that once, we come to terms with the fact that whatever we do moving forward, it's not going to be what it was before. But I think it's going to be something really, I don't want to say, maybe great's not the right word, but something, I think we've learned a lot about what's important and what's like really what, family and our kids and taking the time and slowing down and the things we really need and the things we don't need. And I think the only way we could have learned that was by living through what we've lived through. And
right.
If that was the message and if that changes how we go about living our lives and how we engage with our families and how we spend our money, how we treat other people, then that, like I would say that was a point of if that was a point of my illness, was to move forward and to help people, then that was my new normal. And I think that's what we're going to find here is that how we treat people, how we get along, how we value our families. I think that's going to be our new normal. And it took maybe this for us to learn those lessons.
That's a very poignant statement. And I completely agree. Risa, we have seen so many changes, and even how employers treat employees or employees treat each other. And now that everybody's forced to be home, and I know so many offices and businesses, hospitals, so many of them either are not working or they lost their job or they were laid off or they're working remotely. It is a fearful time for many, especially with respect to finances because of the unknown. And, this has a huge impact on our economy, not only in our state, but really globally. And I think by being grateful for those other things, it will help diminish some of the fear in other aspects. Like we said before, our mind can't focus on two things at once. And so the appreciation we have for our families and that quality time, so many of us, and I'm sure you as well, we were just caught up in the hustle bustle of a million activities and, work and drive here, drive there, be gone. When I was growing up, we used to have nightly dinners, with our family, and we're kind of going back to that simple way of life.
We've had, when Allie left for school this past fall, it was really, really, really hard for me. It's still hard for me, but my whole entire life revolved around her. And all of a sudden she was in college. And I knew that every time she came home, she'd be leaving again. So as hard as this is, like I look at it bonus time. This is bonus time I've had with her that I would not have had.
Right.
And we've had dinner together just about every single night, like all of us sitting at the kitchen table. I said I've used my kitchen more in 2 months than I have in like the 5 years I've lived in this house. Kind of embarrassing.
We're all doing, I know, right? Yeah.
But and I look at that, like I said, we could live to 100 years old, and I will look at this time. She'll go back to school, whether it's in September, whether it's whatever, and she'll go on with her life. But this was bonus time I got to have with her, and I'm grateful for that.
And I think that's how we have to look at it. No matter what our finances are, or what fears we all have, or what may, this really should be considered as bonus.
It's going to be hard for everybody. It's going to be hard for everybody. But like I said, I'm trying to look at the positives and be grateful for the things that we have.
Yeah. And I think that's amazing. Health, number one.
Health, number one. We're all healthy, and that's
healthy. The love of our family and friends, even if it's remote,
right.
Our the ability to pull our own selves out of any kind of issue or anxiety. We have to look at the positives in life, and we're still here, and we're still, moving forward. So tell us one more time, tell our viewers one more time where they can find your book and they can see more of you and, and everything that you're going to be doing.
It's www.feelbettermommy.com is my website where you can order the book or the coloring book. And then I'm also on Amazon.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much, Risa, for being with us. And it's been such a pleasure talking with you. You're a very wonderful woman. So thank you.
Thank you.
And to our viewers out there, thank you so much for spending another Tuesday with me and with the Cronin Law Firm and our Challenge to Change series. We just heard from a remarkable woman who overcame so many challenges and obstacles. And if she can do it, I know you can too. We all can do it. We can all pull ourselves up from our bootstraps, by our bootstraps, and just move forward. This is an unprecedented time. And I know you have the strength to be grateful, to be positive, and to be uplifted. And do that and be that for anyone else that comes in your path, whether it's your ex, whether it's your children, whether it's your family members, friends, the loved ones that you cannot see. Be that strength and be that voice for them. And please call me if you need anything at all at the Cronin Law Firm, 248-258-3500. Please call me, Sabrina, and I want to be here for you. And my entire team is ready and here for you anytime, day or night. Please stay well, stay safe, and keep your spirits high. Until next time, have a great day.